everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Today, the two episodes I'm talking about are The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit. And I just want to say that there were several commenters that have said that this two-parter was going to be one of the best, or several of them said that it's one of their favorite two-parter episodes, whatever. I can understand why. There were so many good things about these two episodes, and actually breaking it down to some of my favorite parts was actually rather difficult, but I did make a list. And actually, before I even get into them, I do want to say, tell me what your favorite parts of these two episodes were, because I'm sure, in fact, I'm pretty much positive that I'm not going to touch probably half of them. So, the first one I want to get into, or the first best part about this episode, has to be, could it be Satan? Yes. Yes, it is. The way that they tied in the Satan, Lucifer, the devil, essentially, into these two episodes was brilliant. From start to finish, just the way it worked, the way it flowed throughout both episodes was just perfect. So well done. Very creepy. Honestly, very creepy. I can't even remember who wrote these two episodes, but whoever it was did a very good job. I wouldn't say it's the scariest of all the episodes that I've seen so far, but it was definitely up there and just very well constructed, really well done. Now, the second best part about this episode is the fact that, these two episodes, is the fact that both of them reminded me of the original Alien movie. And that might sound weird, but let me explain. In the original Alien movie, it wasn't the crazy action like we get in Aliens, the second movie. No, this was more of a... The episodes weren't entirely survival horror, but there was that tension that in the first episode, that unknown, like that foreboding feeling of something's going to happen. And the second episode was just being completely confined and cut off and being chased by these aliens that, they don't look like the xenomorphs, but I mean, still, it was just, there were just so many things about these two episodes that reminded me so much, or maybe not reminding me, but gave me that feeling from the first Alien movie. Something that I hoped to get from Prometheus, but didn't. If you've seen any of my movie reviews, you probably know what I'm talking about. But anyway, okay, so to get into the third best part about these episodes, it would have to be the Ood, the slave race of aliens. And just, there was something about them that was so innocent and yet so very sad. I mean, later they obviously get possessed by Satan, and they become the big bad guys. But especially in the first episode, and somewhat in the second, because they have no control over themselves, I just felt really sad for them, felt really bad for them, especially the way some of the crew was treating them. While, not necessarily cruelly, just as if they were things, as if they weren't living creatures. That was just a really interesting and powerful part of both of these episodes was the Ood themselves. I honestly hope that they appear elsewhere in the show. As usual, I don't know if they will or not, but if they do show up again, I would really like that, because I would like to see, or rather find out more about the Ood race, basically. Now, my fourth favorite part about these episodes was actually the crew themselves. Now, as I said before, some of them I didn't care for the way they treated the Ood, but all of them had very interesting personalities, even though we didn't really get to know much about them. There were obviously certain characters that were more fleshed out than others, but there were still aspects to all of them that were really interesting. I think about the only one of the few real cringeworthy moments from both of these episodes happened, I think, near the beginning of the second, when oh, I don't remember the name of the crew member, but basically the Ood come through and touch their globe to her forehead, and the way she screams and like topples over, it was so very B-movie acting in that segment. And I laughed and I cringed at the same time when that part happened, because just like, well, that's a pretty crappy way to go out, but you could have been a little bit more convincing. like I said, that was just one of the few really cringe-worthy moments of these two episodes. And, unfortunately it happened to the crew, but as I was saying before, the rest of them, very interesting characters. I doubt we will ever see any of them ever again, but I like them. Now, the fifth, and definitely one of the biggest aspects of both of these episodes, is the black hole. The black hole itself, while, not necessarily the most outrageous thing in either of these episodes, I really like the way it was animated. I like the way that everything was sort of structured around this black hole, and especially what we ended up finding out later, its purpose and why the impossible planet was actually there. And yeah, I really like that. I've always been fascinated by science and by space, and just having a show come so close to, a black hole, even though it's not real, but just the idea of being that close to a black hole is really fascinating and really crazy. I just really like that part. Now, the final best part of this episode is technically cheating, because it's the first one as well. Satan. The creature itself, in both of its forms, as the gigantic, horned, fire-breathing monstrosity that the Doctor finds in the bottom of the planet or crater or whatever it's supposed to be. That was, you can debate about the graphics, but I just really like the way that was done, and the way it would just randomly appear on the computer monitors for just a second, for just a few seconds. That was just really well done, and it really contributed to that creepiness, to the creepiness of it, to that tension that was building up, that made it, again, feel like an alien movie to me. And then there was the mind of Satan, or the mind of the beast, basically, inhabiting Toby, I think was his name? Yeah, no, at first I wasn't sure what to think about it, because, where all the lettering appears on, I was just kind of like, that looks like magic marker. But the more I thought about it, it could actually be meant to look like ash or ashes, or like a branding, like deep black branding. And once I thought about it that way, I really liked the way that they had all the writing on his face, and the way that his eyes glowed red. It was really effective, and I really liked that. And the voice, I know I'm not imitating it properly, but the voice was just so perfect. Almost exactly what you would expect from Satan himself. I really liked that. It was so good. Yeah, it's really, again, that's like, I had to really bring it down to certain aspects of this episode. Didn't even mention the Doctor and Rose, because I really enjoyed them in this episode too. Obviously, they had so many good moments. So, obviously, I haven't mentioned everything here. Please let me know what were some of your favorite aspects of these episodes, because I'm sure that a lot of them will probably have to do with the Doctor and Rose. But I also have to mention my favorite quote from this episode, and this is another one that, there were a lot of very quotable lines from these episodes, but there was one in particular that it wasn't until I went back and really looked through some of the lines from the episode to make sure, obviously I get the quote right, that I happened upon one that just, I didn't pay much mind. It was from the first episode, The Impossible Planet. And it wasn't until I read it that I was just like, oh my god, foreshadowing! And the quote is from the Doctor, and it's in referring to the gravitational field and how the planet/rock is staying there with such close proximity to the black hole. And the quote is this: "There we go. There we go. Do you see? To generate that gravity field in the funnel, you need a power source with an inverted self-extrapolating reflux of 6 to the power of 6 every 6 seconds." Now Now, again, while I was listening to that part of the episode, I didn't pay much mind to it. It didn't click with me to think 666. But, again, after seeing the episode and then reading that quote, it just made so much sense. It just fits so perfectly. And I mean, to some people that may seem like, sort of an obvious thing. It's like, oh, well, obviously, it has to deal with Satan 666. To me, it was the fact that I sort of reflected on something I didn't even notice in that episode. It was just a line. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And it's one of the things that I've really come to enjoy about the Doctor Who series so far, and it's really been through, the help of, revisiting things, going online, reading over some of the quotes, and also just having you all, the commenters, mention some of your favorite parts of either upcoming or previous episodes, and just giving more detail on things either that I missed or that maybe I didn't think too much about, but might be, very important in the grand scheme of things. And I guess I'm sort of starting to do that myself to a degree. I'm still not, full-blown Whovian, I guess. But I'm definitely becoming one, and I've really enjoyed becoming part of the culture that is, the Whovian fandom, or the Doctor Who fandom. And everyone, that's really all I'm going to say for this episode. Thank you very much for joining in. As I've said several times already, please leave your comments below. Let me know some of your thoughts about both of these episodes, your favorite parts, your favorite quotes, because again, like I said, there were a lot of really good lines that, I just couldn't choose because I just wanted to pick one. But yeah, everyone, I hope you have a great week. I'm going to be coming out with the next episode next week, possibly sooner. We'll see. I'm going to try and get a few more episodes out if possible, but we'll see how my schedule looks. But anyway, everyone, again, have a great week, and I will see you next time on the next Discovering Doctor Who.